All right, I'm coming. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting.
We're police officers. We'd like to have a word with you.
Huh.
It's rather a serious matter, sir. May we come in?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, sir. My name's Gregory, Detective Chief Inspector, Scotland Yard. This is Detective Sergeant Conway.
How do you do? Can I offer you a drink, gentlemen?
No, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry. You're on duty, of course. A cigarette? Well, now, you're from Scotland Yard, so I'm not going to suggest you've come to see me about my driving license.
I said it was serious, sir. We'd just like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
What about?
We'll come to that, sir.
Well, why don't you sit down and make yourself comfortable?
Thank you.
I must say it's a new experience for me to be questioned by the police. All right, fire away.
Where were you this afternoon, sir?
This afternoon? Well, I was at Eastfield in Kent. Coles Farm, to be precise. I was there between, 1 o'clock and 5.
What were you doing there?
Shooting.
Shooting?
Yes. Pigeons.
Not a very usual recreation for an artist, is it, sir?
No, I suppose not. I'm afraid my artistic tendency was a bitter disappointment for the old man. However, we have one thing in common. Guns.
Guns?
Yes.
I'd like to see your gun, sir.
Here we are. Two of the finest. And here's my license.
Seems to be in order, sir.
And now, Inspector, would you mind telling me what all this is about?
When did you last see your wife, sir?
My wife?
That's right.
Well, we've been separated for the past 3 years, but I did see her a few days ago.
I see. At a cottage at Cookley in Surrey?
Yes, she prefers to live in the country.
Did you go there today?
No.
You're quite sure about that, sir?
Look, Inspector, has anything happened to her?
Mr. Rogers, I'm afraid you'll have to prepare yourself for a shock. Your wife was found dead this afternoon. She was killed with a shotgun.
I can't believe it. She never used a gun.
She didn't, sir. She was murdered. Between 2:30 and 3 today. The murder weapon hasn't been found yet. I'm sorry I have to ask you some more questions, but we won't bother you more than necessary.
Thank you.
Now, sir, first of all, about how far from your wife's cottage at Cookley was the place where you were shooting today?
Oh, a long way. About 40 miles or so across country.
Were you out alone this afternoon?
No, I wasn't. Why does it matter?
Who were you with?
You're not suggesting that I... You know, I'm beginning to realize you weren't kidding when you said this was serious.
Just answer my questions, please, sir.
Well, I was with a friend. A girl.
Her name?
Vaughan. Serena Vaughan.
What is the relationship, sir?
She's my model. I've known her for some time. We were very good friends.
How are things with you and your wife, then, sir?
Well, you did say they were separated, sir. 3 years.
Thank you. But you do still see her?
Yes, but only recently. She's been out of the country most of the time we were apart, staying with her stepfather in France. He was French. He died a month or so ago.
Was there any talk of a divorce?
No.
But you've been separated all this time. Didn't you ever think of a divorce?
Oh, yes, I thought about it. But you see, I had a deep devotion for Anne. In any case, there could never be a divorce.
Oh, why?
She was a devout Roman Catholic.
I see. You got that?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, last time I saw her, there was talk of a reconciliation.
Mr. Rogers, was your wife a beautiful woman?
Very beautiful. But you must have seen her, Inspector.
Oh, yes. I saw her, Mr. Rogers. She'd been murdered with a shotgun, fired into her face.
Oh, no.
Can you think of anyone who might have wanted to kill her?
I have no idea.
This Miss,
Vaughan, sir.
Christian name?
Serena.
Were you with her all afternoon?
Yes. She left just as you knocked.
What do you mean just now, sir?
Yes, she went out this way.
Why?
Well, it was quicker for her. Look, I'll show you. These steps lead down to a passage. Sort of shortcut.
I see. Thank you. Do you have Miss Vaughan's address, sir?
Yes, but, well, actually, I was expecting her back about 9. She just went home to change. We're going out for a spot of supper this evening.
I'd like to have her address, please, sir.
Oh, yes, certainly. There we are. And her phone number, too.
Oh, may I use your phone, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
She should be home by now. She only lives just round the corner.
Yes? Who? Who did you say? Oh, Miss Vaughan. No, she's not back yet. She's been out all day.
They say she's not there.
Well, that's Mrs. Price. She wouldn't hear a brass band walk in. Ask her to go up and knock on Serena's door.
Hello? Would you do me a favor?
What? But that's 2 flights up. Listen, I've told you she's not in.
I'm sorry to trouble you, but it is important. Well, thank you very much. She's going up, sir.
Ah, good. Yes. That's her.
Well, I hope she wasn't dressed like that this afternoon.
Hello?
She's not in.
Oh. Oh, thank you. Just a moment. There's no one in Miss Vaughan's room, sir.
But there must be. Here, let me talk to her. Hello? Mrs. Price? Ah, this is Mr. Rogers here.
What? Tell her to phone you when? Oh, all right. I'll tell her as soon as she comes in. Yes. I'll say it's important.
Thank you, Mrs. Price. Goodbye. That's odd. She said she was going straight home.
Well, don't worry. We'll contact her later. I'd like to see a picture of your wife, sir, if you've got one.
Yes, certainly. Here we are, Inspector.
A very beautiful woman.
Yes, she is, isn't she? She was brought up in a convent, you know.
Was she now? Oh, it's a lovely painting. Did you do it?
Yes, about 5 years ago. Of course, she had a different hairstyle in those days, but I think anyone could recognize her from it. Or could have done. I'd have painted her more often, but she wasn't a good sitter.
Well, sir, we shall have to take these guns with us.
No, that's all right.
And I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to accompany us, Mr. Rogers.
Why?
The formal identification of the body.
I see. Yes, of course.
And on the way, we can call in at the cottage.
Oh, all right. I'll just leave a note for Serena.
You won't forget a receipt for the guns, will you, Sergeant?
Oh, of course not, sir. I'll make it out in the car.
All right, Inspector.
It's 11'2" to the head.
This is how we found your wife, sir.
But how did the murderer get in the first place?
We found the door on the latch. It's probable that he did too.
It's unbelievable. Who'd want to do such a thing?
Someone must have hated her pretty badly to have shot her in the face like that.
Well, I can't think who. She was basically such a nice person. Everyone liked her. And even though we've been separated for the past 3 years, I still loved her.
Yes, sir.
You don't believe me, do you, Inspector?
You say you loved your wife, yet she went to live in France.
Well, we had our difficulties. Most married people do.
Yes, sir. Was Serena Vaughan one of your difficulties?
No, I hadn't known her that long.
What do you make of those initials? C.M.
C.M.? No, it means nothing to me.
Our investigations indicate it's possible that some other person's been staying in this cottage.
Are you suggesting my wife had a lover?
I'm suggesting nothing, sir.
Anne's not the type.
So C.M. means nothing to you?
No. Inspector, I didn't kill my wife.
I'm prepared to accept your statements for the time being, especially if you can account for your movements this afternoon.
Well, Serena Vaughan will tell you. I was with her all afternoon.
Yes, sir. Pity she wasn't home when we phoned.
And there's another way you can verify my alibi.
Yes?
Ask Norman Cole. He's the farmer where I was shooting this afternoon.
We'll check it, sir, tomorrow. After you, sir. These are all the clothes, sir. And now, Mr. Rogers.
Suppose I have to.
I'm afraid so, sir.
How do you expect me to identify that?
Is the hair the right color?
Yes. That's all I can tell you.
Did your wife have any distinguishing marks on her body, sir?
I don't know.
Nothing?
Wait a minute. Yes, she had a birthmark on her thigh. Her right thigh.
You sure it was her right thigh, sir? There's no sign of any birthmark there.
It's plain enough to me. This is not my wife, Inspector.
This is Miss Vaughan's room.
Thank you.
You know, she never stays out as late as this without letting me know.
Thank you, Mrs. Price. I'd like to have a look round, if you don't mind.
I can't understand why she's got to.
There's quite a lot that I don't understand, sir. First, if the deceased isn't your wife, then who is she? What was she doing living in your wife's cottage, wearing your wife's clothes? Who killed her, and why? And furthermore, where the devil has your wife disappeared to? And where is Miss Vaughan?
There you are, Inspector. Serena's back. Serena, I'm sorry we're late, but...
Hello, Howard. If you're expecting someone else, perhaps I'd better go.
No. You don't know how glad I am to see you. I told you she was beautiful, didn't I? Oh, this is Mr. Gregory and Mr. Conway. They're from Scotland Yard. Inspector, this is my wife.
Good evening, Mrs. Rogers.
How do you do?
Evening.
Friends of yours, Howard?
Well, business, Mrs. Rogers. Official business. Close the door, please, Sergeant. Sir.
How do you get in?
The caretaker let me in after a lot of trouble. I even had to go so far as showing him my passport. He's very vigilant. But I did want to see you, Howard.
And we'd like to have a word with you, Mrs. Rogers, now that you're here.
Yes, of course, Inspector. Is he in any trouble?
Oh, it's not as simple as that. This concerns you.
Me?
Yes. Would you like to sit down?
Yes.
Now, would you give me a few details about your movements today?
Yes. I left Rose Hill Cottage at Cookley. That's where I live, at about 9. And I spent the day shopping in the West End.
I see. Do you happen to have any accounts of the shops that you went to, so that they could corroborate what you say?
No, but I've probably got some receipts in my handbag.
Well, they might do.
Let's see. Yes, here we are. Stockings. Scarf. Girdle.
Yes. Well, they're today's date. May we keep them?
If you want to.
Thank you. Well, I don't see any parcels.
No, I put them all in the left luggage at the station. I'll pick them up on my way home tonight.
I see. What brings you here this evening, Mrs. Rogers?
I wanted to talk to Howard.
Have you been anywhere else today?
Yes, to the theatre this evening. The St. George's, Gilbert and Sullivan. You should see it, Inspector.
The crazy gang's more my line.
May I know what this is all about? I mean, am I being accused of anything? I haven't been shoplifting.
Anne, a woman was found murdered at your cottage.
My cottage? When?
This afternoon. Her face was unrecognizable.
Horrible. And they thought...
We assumed the victim to be you as she was wearing your clothes.
Claire. No, it can't be.
Who's Claire?
Claire Matthews. You don't know her, Howard.
A friend of yours?
Yes, she was staying with me. If she was wearing my clothes, it must be Claire.
Why was she dressed in your clothes?
Well, it's a very complicated story, Inspector. You see, someone's been watching me. I've been followed every time I went out. By a woman.
You reported it to the police?
No.
Well, why not? Did you know the woman?
No, but I thought... I'm sorry, Howard, but I thought you were having me watched.
I wouldn't do a thing like that, Anne.
You mean an inquiry agent? A snooper. Well, what did she look like?
Well, I never got a good look at her face, but she was fairly tall and had long dark hair, and she always wore a green coat.
Would you recognize her again?
I think so.
Long, dark hair. Like this?
That sort of hair. There is something. Who is she, Howard?
Just a model. She sits for me occasionally. Her name's Serena Vaughan.
We're waiting to interview her.
Oh.
But I know Serena, Inspector. She wouldn't do anything stupid.
We're investigating a murder, sir. Claire Matthews, how long have you known her?
Oh, since we were kids. We were at school together. She went on the stage, and until I ran into her last week, I hadn't seen her since we left school.
Where does she live?
Oh, her home's up north, in Durham, I think. She said that work was difficult to get. She wasn't a very good actress, I'm afraid. And her money was running out, so I suggested that she stay with me.
Have you been looking for a companion, or was there something to do with the woman that you imagined was following you?
It wasn't imagination, Inspector. And seeing Claire gave me an idea.
Go on.
Well, at school, the teachers always used to think we were sisters. We looked very similar. Our hair coloring's the same. We're about the same height.
Yes?
Well, I thought if Claire stayed with me and wore my clothes, we might put off this snooper, as you call her.
Was Claire Matthews aware of your intention?
Oh, yes. I offered to pay her, and she agreed to help.
When did she start?
She arrived last night, just after midnight. This morning, she dressed in my clothes and walked into the village. I was hoping the woman in the green coat would follow her, then I could slip away and catch my train to London.
You seem firmly convinced she is a private investigator looking for divorce evidence.
What else could she be?
Did you employ an inquiry agent?
Certainly not.
Mrs. Rogers, if this woman were an agent, would there be any evidence for her to find?
No, Inspector.
Then why were you so scared of her?
Well, I was more annoyed than scared.
Did you always leave your front door on the latch during the day?
No. I always kept it locked. But I forgot to tell Claire this. You see, my mind was so full of my meeting with my husband and what I was going to say to him. I want him back.
I think you've asked enough questions, Inspector.
You see, I booked 2 seats for the theatre. I was hoping you'd come with me, but when I called, you weren't in. That's why I came back tonight. We must sort things out, darling.
Inspector, I think you'd better go now.
No, please. I want to help, for Claire's sake.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. You've been living in Paris, I believe.
Yes, with my stepfather. He died 4 weeks ago. I came back to see his solicitor and settle his affairs, and to see Howard.
Did he leave much money?
Yes, quite a lot.
What do you call a lot?
280,000.
Pounds?
Mm-hmm.
Have you made a will?
No, not yet.
Look, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but is there anybody in this country or abroad who might wish to see you dead?
I can't think of anybody.
Thank you. Mrs. Rogers, you understand you can't go back to the cottage tonight.
Oh, that's all right. You can stay here. I'll go to a hotel.
There's room in the flat for both of us.
I'm sure you must both have realized by now it's highly probable that Claire Matthews was killed in mistake for you. They might try again.
In that case, I'd feel safer here with my husband.
Well, I put a man on the door tonight anyway. See to it, please, Conway.
Yes, sir.
Is that necessary?
Well, if nothing happens, there's no harm done. Good night, Mrs. Rogers.
Good night, Inspector.
Good night, Mr. Rogers.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
I'm frightened, Howard.
Tonight we sleep under the protection of the law.
Well, let's sort it out.
Confusing case, sir.
Yes.
Shall I get some tea?
Yes, we'll need it. And while you're at it, give Press Bureau a full description of Serena Vaughan.
Yes, sir.
Morning, Sergeant.
Morning, Harry. Had a quiet night?
Nothing much doing. Jolly cold, though.
Well, you're just in time. Tea's up.
Good, I can do with a cup.
What have you got for me this morning?
Here, have a look at this.
That's not much good, is it?
Here, I found this little lot floating near Chelsea Bridge.
Well, I'd better get this lot in the book, then. Yeah, Harry. What would you call that?
Well, it's sort of suede.
One coat, ladies, green.
Right, that's the third one, Joe. Do you want any more?
No, that should be enough, Mike. Wait a minute. Get me one of this.
Okay, you're the boss. Oh, I'm so sorry.
How's your wife this morning, sir?
Oh, she's fine. She's coming back to live with me.
I'm very glad, sir.
Thank you.
Take it up a bit. That's it. Hold it. Fine, thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, morning, Inspector. Well, have you found Serena yet?
Not yet, but we have found this. Ever seen it before?
Yes. Serena's.
You certain?
Of course I am. She always used it for shooting. As a matter of fact, she was wearing it yesterday afternoon. Look, she had the right shoulder padded to absorb the recoil.
Uh-huh.
But why is it so wet? Where did you find it?
Floating in the Thames. Oh, but she wasn't in it.
Did you expect her to be?
Well, I don't know, sir. But let's assume she's still alive, shall we? Mr. Rogers, do you think it's possible that she was the woman that followed your wife?
I've no idea.
Well, thank you anyway. I only wanted you to identify the coat. Sergeant?
Oh, yes, sir.
You are keeping a man on duty here all day, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Good boy. Thank you, sir.
Not at all.
I think we should get a line on the victim, Claire Matthews, as soon as possible, sir.
A valuable contribution, Conway, but I'm more concerned with Roger's alibi.
Serena Vaughan is the one to confirm that. She's disappeared.
Find Serena and we find the key to this case.
Wait a minute. Rogers mentioned that farmer yesterday.
Very good, Sergeant. Where was it?
At Cole's farm, Eastfield, Kent.
Right, let's go.
Yes, sir.
On your way, John. Chop, chop. Turn the car around, John. Shan't be long. No Don't do that again, will you?
I wasn't expecting visitors.
Mr. Cole?
Yes? What can I do for you, gentlemen?
I believe you know a Mr. Howard Rogers.
Very well. For a good few years. As a matter of fact, I
Did you see him yesterday?
Indeed I did. He came with Miss Vaughan.
Oh, you know Miss Vaughan, then?
Oh, yes. Very pretty girl. And what a shot. Just before they started off, a pair of pigeons came over that fence there. She got both of them. Clean as a whistle.
Did you use one of Mr. Rogers' guns?
Always has.
A bit heavy for a woman, isn't it?
She doesn't seem to mind. She knows how to use her. Good as any man.
What time did they arrive?
About 1 o'clock, I'd say.
Where exactly did they go?
Across Long Valley. Over the hill.
What time did they get back?
Oh, after 5, I'd say.
So they were out of your sight all that time, then?
Yes, though I did see Mr. Rogers take a couple of shots down by the stream.
What time was that?
3 o'clock.
How can you be so sure of that?
Oh, it was 3 o'clock. I heard the village clock striking the hour.
Did he see you?
Well, that I can't say.
I take it Miss Vaughan was with him all the time.
I didn't see her.
You didn't see her? Have you any idea where she was?
Well, she could have been across the valley. When 2 people go on a shoot, they usually split up. Then one drives the birds towards the other.
I see.
I hope Mr. Rogers isn't in any sort of trouble or anything.
No, I don't think so. So you didn't see Miss Vaughan at all in the afternoon until she came back with Mr. Rogers at about 5 o'clock?
That's correct.
You're sure she was back with him at 5?
I'm quite sure. Now, gentlemen, if I can be of any further assistance to you?
No, thank you. Is it all right if we take a look around?
You carry on, but make sure the gates are closed behind you, will you?
Yes, we'll do that.
Morning.
"24 hours wasted, Conway. Barking up the wrong tree."
Oh, I don't know, sir. We found out quite a lot.
Well, Rogers is in the clear. If he was on this farm at 3 o'clock, he couldn't have been at Mrs. Rogers' cottage between 2:30 and 3:30 when she was killed. It's 49 miles away. We can forget him.
And start thinking about Serena Vaughan.
That's right. She was separated from Rogers at the material time.
Maybe for the whole 4 hours.
She could have taken Rogers' car without his realizing it, done the murder, and then met Rogers again as if nothing had happened.
And then she killed the wrong person, Claire Matthews, instead of Anne Rogers.
Motive?
Hell has no fury like a woman scorned.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to Mrs. Rogers' cottage. You go to town. Find Serena Vaughan. Find out everything you can about her. Go to her room. There might be a lead there. I want to know everything about that young woman.
Yes, sir.
Also, go and see Mrs. Rogers' solicitors. There may be some connection between Serena and Mrs. Rogers that we don't know about. Find out if there's any other possible motive she could have to murder Mrs. Rogers. You'll have to go by train. I'll drop you at the station. Drive on, John. Chop, chop.
She owes me a week's rent.
What do you know about her?
Eh?
What do you know about Miss Vaughan?
Well, she wasn't here very long. And I don't pry into the private affairs of my tenants.
Did she have many visitors?
Eh?
Did many people come to see her?
Only Mr. Rogers, he used to call. Never seen nobody else.
A girl like that should have a lot of friends.
I don't know. She never brought them here. But there's one thing I can tell you.
Oh?
They was quarrelling up here the other evening.
What about?
I didn't listen. I'm a bit hard of hearing, you know. But I couldn't help overhearing a word or two. Divorce came up once or twice. He's married all right, stringing her along he is, you know.
Oh, yes. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
That's what they say.
There's little I can tell you about Miss Vaughan. I know nothing about her privately. As I said, she closed her account yesterday. She should have handed in this checkbook. There's a small credit owing her.
Did she come in the morning?
Yes, that's correct.
This number here, Vic 32. Does that mean anything to you? It can't be a telephone number unless it's incomplete.
I'm afraid I'm unable to help you at all.
Two and fourpence, sir.
Right. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good health, sir. Good luck.
Cheers.
Now, Fred Jackson here, he ought to be able to help you. He keeps the allotments on the other side of the field, over by Rosehill Cottage.
Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah?
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
How do you do, sir?
How about the other half?
In a minute, sir. Thank you very much.
Did you see anybody hanging around Mrs. Rogers' cottage recently?
Oh, about this here murder? You from the newspaper, sir?
Police.
Ah. No, hardly anyone goes up to Rosehill, sir. But there was a fella one afternoon. Yes, about a week ago. Dapper sort of fella he was. Just drove up in his car and went straight in.
Was that Mr. Rogers?
Oh, I wouldn't know him, sir. No, Mrs. Rogers, though. Spoke to her once. Nice lady.
Have you ever met this Claire Matthews?
No. Then she didn't have a very long stay here, did she?
You're right. Suppose you didn't hear the shot yesterday afternoon?
Do me a favour, sir. In the height of the season, who'd notice a shot in the afternoon? Well, I ask you, sir.
Of course.
One thing I did notice yesterday, a smart-looking Judy in a green coat with long black hair. She took a short cut across my new ploughed furrows.
Is that her?
Wouldn't recognise her from that. Not a very good picture, is it, sir? It was that sort of hair, though. And I'd have been after her, too, I can tell you. Only the missus was watching me.
Fred, you've earned yourself a pint.
Thanks very much, sir.
You're Mrs. Rogers' solicitor, sir.
Well, to be strictly accurate, I'm Monsieur Dupré, solicitor, Mrs. Rogers' late stepfather, and his executor.
I understand that he was a very wealthy man, Mr. Fisher.
Oh, yes, indeed. Of course, Mrs. Rogers gets everything. He was devoted to her. Very charming woman. As a matter of fact, she was in this office here only last week.
With Mr. Rogers?
No, I didn't know the husband. I did hear one or two things about him, but strictly in confidence, of course.
Yes, of course. Was there talk of a divorce, sir?
Oh, no, not to my knowledge. Mrs. Rogers is a devout Roman Catholic. She follows her faith very seriously.
Mr. Fisher, does the name Vaughan, Serena Vaughan, mean anything to you? Fit in anywhere?
Vaughan?
With the family, I mean.
Vaughan? No, I can't connect it.
Well, I'm asking you these questions, sir, because an attempt has been made on Mrs. Rogers' life.
Oh, dear.
And it may be repeated. Now, have you any information which could help us with our inquiries? Do you know of anybody who might have a motive?
No.
John, bring that green coat from the back of the car. Chop, chop.
license examinations. Police reinforcements had to be brought in to disperse the cabmen's rally. 23 taxi drivers were charged with obstructions. Scotland Yard have issued this description and picture of a missing person who they think can help them with their inquiries into the murder at Cookley, Surrey, yesterday. Serena Vaughan, Artist's model, aged about 24. Height...
Nasty evening, madam, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
How is she, Doctor?
Well, she seems to have recovered from the hysteria. I've given her a pretty strong sedative. She should sleep for quite a while. Take that to the chemist in the morning.
Right. Well, thank you for coming so promptly. This is a pretty disgraceful affair, isn't it? With the police right on the doorstep, too.
Your wife wasn't hurt, sir.
But she's still very distressed, isn't she, Doctor?
Well, she's resting now. Anyway, if you need me again, just call me and I'll come straight over.
Do you think it would be better if I got her away from here?
Well, that would be very good for her. She appears to be hypersensitive. I think she needs a change of scenery as soon as possible.
All right, I'll do my best. Well, thank you for coming out on such a terrible night.
Well, at least it stopped raining. Good night.
Good night, Doctor. Oh, there you are, Inspector. A bit late, aren't you?
I just want to get the details, sir.
Yes, well, I'll give you some details. My wife's in there. She's suffering from shock. Now, that's a detail. When I got back, she was in hysterics. She was almost murdered tonight. That's another detail. Do you want any more?
You got all the facts, Conway?
Yes, sir. The constable here acted with commendable speed and was very efficient.
What happened exactly, Constable?
Well, it was all very sudden, sir. I was on duty outside when I heard the sound of breaking glass and a loud scream. So I forced my way in here, saw the lady lying on the floor, sir. There was the impression of someone on the balcony. I didn't know exactly what to do, sir, whether to go after the intruder or to render first aid. So I blew my whistle and helped the lady.
The man on the beat answered the whistle, sir, but he found nothing.
Could you say if the intruder was a man or a woman?
Well, he wore trousers, sir, but that's all I'm sure of.
And that's not conclusive, is it?
Look, sir, there's an iron ladder. It leads up to the roof. This is it. He could have gone up and got away from there.
Do you mean to say you didn't even consider the roof, Inspector?
You should have told us about this ladder, sir. If only for your wife's sake.
Oh, you're the police. Don't blame me for your inefficiencies.
I'd just like to have your cooperation, sir. It's the best way to protect your wife and to catch the murderer.
I see what you're trying to do now. You're using her as a bait.
Sergeant, put 2 men on duty here tonight.
Yes, sir. That's not good enough, Inspector. I'm taking her back to France.
Mr. Rogers, I'd remind you, you're both witnesses in a murder case.
Well, that's just too bad, isn't it? My concern is for my wife's safety, and I'm going to take her out of the country, even if I have to see the Home Secretary himself.
Do you think taking her abroad is the best way to protect her?
Your duty is to prevent crime, isn't it?
It is, sir. And also to apprehend the criminal.
And your most important duty is to prevent my wife from being killed.
The protection of the innocent comes high on our list, yes.
When she's in London, she's a sitting target. Why, even the doctor said she should go away. The sergeant heard him say so.
Well, I can't give you permission to leave the country.
Then you'd better speak to your superiors, hadn't you? Or shall I do it myself?
It won't be necessary, sir. Just leave it to me.
Look, Inspector, I'm sorry if I lost my temper, but after all that's happened, I'm beginning to feel a strain.
That's all right, Mr. Rogers. Before I go, there's just one point I'd like to clear up. When you were out shooting yesterday, were you with Miss Vaughan all the time?
Well, no, not all the time. We split up. It's quite usual, you know.
How long was she out of your sight?
Well, I don't know. Quite a time. Well, why?
Could she have left the farm without your knowledge?
Well, she could have done, yes.
Could she have gone for a drive in your car?
Well, hardly. I had the keys.
But if she had a duplicate key, I don't suppose you happened to notice the mileage on the clock when you arrived or left the farm?
No, I didn't.
Then she might have used your car.
Well, if she had another key, but I don't think she had.
Why not?
Well, it's my car. I'd know, wouldn't I? Anyway, why should she?
That's one of my problems, sir. I suggest the constable remains here on duty until you've fixed with the local people to send 2 men to relieve him. I want one inside and one out there, right?
Yes, sir.
Good night, Mr. Rogers.
Good night, Inspector.
Thank you.
Well, let's try and sort it out again.
As I said last night, sir, it's a very confusing case.
Everything points one way, Serena Vaughan. We must assume that it was she who tried to kill Mrs. Rogers tonight because her original plan misfired and she'd killed the wrong woman.
Claire Matthews. Could have been Rogers at the window, sir. He wasn't at home. Or do you think Serena Vaughan arranged it so that suspicion would fall on Rogers and he'd swing for it?
Well, you're always saying it. Hell hath no fury.
Now, some people call them the gentle sex.
So they are, when it suits them.
I don't think she jumped into the river. I think she just dumped her clothes there.
She had to disappear. And she knew that Rogers would be able to describe her clothes, especially the coat. So she had to get rid of them.
Interesting thought, sir.
What?
A beautiful girl wandering around Chelsea in panties and bra.
She changed into other clothes first. But the question is how? How did she get hold of them? Remember, she didn't go back to her room.
She must have planted them somewhere.
Yes, but where?
I've got a theory, sir. Remember this number on the checkbook?
Vic 32.
Could it be connected with the left luggage office?
I think you've got something there. Vic. Victoria. Victoria Station. 32. A locker number. Come on, let's try it. Have you got the key to 32?
I might have. Why?
I'd just like to have a look at it, if you don't mind.
Oh, that's different. Yes, Superintendent.
Thank you. When was 32 used last?
Oh, they're all in use all the time.
Were you on duty here last night?
Last night, tonight, every night.
Can you tell me anything special about 32 last night? For instance, did you see a woman, a young woman, taking anything out of there?
32. Now, wait a minute, there was something.
Hmm?
Yes, I had to come and open it with another key.
Well, go on.
Young woman it was, long dark hair, wearing a green coat. And she was in the right state and all. God knows what she had in that brown paper parcel.
Well, when she left here, where'd she go?
Over there. Here, perhaps that's why she was in such a hurry.
Oh, yes, well, thank you very much.
Any reward, Superintendent?
Well, there you are. A changing room, all for the price of 1 penny.
Hey,
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Just a minute, I'd like to ask...
What's the matter? Take your hand off me. I'll call the police. Police!
What's the trouble? Are these men annoying you?
Yes.
As a matter of fact,
I'm terribly sorry. It's a case of mistaken identity.
I should think so, too.
That's all right, Chief Inspector.
Obviously, when she left the station, she went to the embankment, ditched her old clothes, and then... if only we knew what she did do then. But wherever she is, I'm sure she'll try again to kill Mrs. Rogers.
Well, as long as Mrs. Rogers stays in London, sir, we can protect her.
Well, they want to go abroad, and we can't hold them. Here, wait a minute. Why don't we let them go abroad? And Serena will follow.
And then we've got her, sir.
Sergeant, get Rogers on the phone and tell him I've spoken to the super and that they can go abroad tomorrow if they want to. Find out how and when they're traveling and report back to me.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Greg. Lovely English weather we're having.
Better than Australia, eh?
Glad you dropped in. I got something to show you. Just a minute.
Did you check that material I found at the cottage?
Yeah, it fits the jacket all right. Even the dirt marks matches the report on the table.
Yeah, that's the proof we need. Well, what have you found there, Harry?
Some long black hairs off the collar of the coat.
Well, I should have thought they would have been washed off in the river.
You'd be surprised if it doesn't get washed off. There's one in there. Take a look.
Oh, what's that blob on the end of it?
Spirit gum. That's kind of a glue for sticking on false hair.
Everything under control, Scotty?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Rogers has just come back from church.
Well, there's nothing unusual in that.
No, but there was one thing that struck me as very unusual.
Oh, well, you'd better tell me about it.
Well, Howard, we'll soon be on our way.
Yes. And out of danger. Free from Serena and the thought of Claire Matthew.
Yes. Thank heaven.
Is that absolutely clear? Yes, sir. Good. Then get cracking and don't waste any time getting back here. It's vital. I don't care how many red lights you go through.
I'm still scared.
Nothing's going to happen now. Everything's going to be all right. And darling, I do love you, you know.
I'll go. Hello,
Good morning,
Inspector.
Mrs. Rogers. I trust you've recovered from last night, all right?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
If you'll excuse me, I'll just finish my packing.
Good morning, Inspector.
Good morning, sir. Well, you're pretty nearly ready then.
Yes.
You're in good time.
We started last night as soon as we got your message.
What are you going to do with all your pictures?
Oh, I'll send for them as soon as we get settled somewhere.
It's odd you painted only one portrait of each of those ladies.
Yes, I told you, Anne wasn't a good sitter.
But Serena, she was your professional model, wasn't she?
Yes, I painted several portraits of her.
What happened to them?
Serena took them last week. She wanted to show them to an agent.
Is that a usual sort of request?
Yes. Oh, it's no good. I can't take any more of this stuff. That'll do. I'll have to leave the rest behind.
Shouldn't take this one, then?
No. She wanted to, but it's too big.
Well, that was lucky, sir. For us.
Claire Matthews. Inspector, have you any idea who killed her and is trying to kill my wife?
The person who could help us most with our inquiries is Serena Vaughan.
Poor Serena, I just don't understand it. I realize that you must have suspected her when you asked me those questions about the car last night, but I still don't believe she did it. No, you must be making a mistake, Inspector.
Perhaps, but I don't think so. By the way, did you know she wore a wig?
A wig?
That's right.
That's ridiculous. I knew her very well.
Whoever wore that green coat on the day of the murder wore a wig. We've established that beyond all doubt.
Then you must be looking for the wrong person. Someone's obviously trying to pass themselves off as Serena Vaughan.
Not necessarily, sir.
Why not?
Because we found out that she was planning to disappear.
Oh. Hmm.
Well, let me...
Oh, thank you.
This is my theory, sir. She had her hair cut short and dyed another color. She got herself a wig because she didn't want anyone to know about it. After the murder, she just took off the wig and changed her clothes. And there she was, with a completely new hairstyle and new clothes. In a moment, she'd made a change that would normally take hours.
So nobody has any idea what she looks like now?
Well, that's not giving us much credit, sir.
I finished the packing, darling, but I can't get the case closed.
Oh, all right. I'll do it.
It's awfully nice of you, Inspector, to let us have one of your cars to take us to the airport. We'll be ready in a second.
It's nothing at all, don't mention it. After all, that's the least we can do for you. You heard from your solicitor lately, Mrs. Rogers?
Yes, he telephoned last night.
Did you speak to him?
No. I did. Anne was asleep. It was nothing important. Nothing that couldn't wait.
Oh, I see.
He tells me your sergeant went round to see him.
Yes.
Well, darling, I think we've got everything. Oh, Inspector, do you think one of your men could give us a hand with the luggage?
Mrs. Rogers, Detective Constable Scott told me that she saw you go to church this morning.
Yes, I did. I'm going on a journey.
But you didn't go.
No, my husband's not of my faith. I wanted to pray.
I understand.
Time to go, darling.
I see the car's ready. Barrow,
Sir?
nip down and see if the car's back yet, will you?
Very good, sir. It's there, sir.
Good. Everything's ready for you.
Oh, thank you.
Barrow, the bags, please.
Well, thank you for everything, Inspector. You've been very nice.
Oh, I'm coming down with you.
Goodbye, Inspector, and thanks.
Not at all.
Well, Inspector?
Oh, Mr. Rogers, I don't believe you've met Mr. Fisher, Mrs. Rogers' solicitor.
In you get, sir. It won't take long.
You're quite right. That certainly isn't Mrs. Rogers.
And they're not going to the airport. They're being taken to Scotland Yard. That young woman's name is Serena Vaughan. Take great care of them, won't you, Sergeant?
It'll be a pleasure, sir.
Where is Mrs. Rogers, then?
Well, I'm afraid she's dead. Serena didn't shoot the wrong woman. She killed the real Mrs. Rogers. After you.
Thanks.
You see, Serena committed the murder. She changed her appearance, just as I thought she did. But instead of disappearing, she came back here and impersonated Anne Rogers. She told us that story about a completely fictitious Claire Matthews. She even planted a handkerchief with CM on it, along with the other things, at the time she did the murder.
So Rogers knew all along that this body was really that of his wife?
Yes, the whole scheme was his idea. He painted this picture of Serena as Mrs. Rogers.
Well, who's that one, then?
That one? No one. No one at all. Just sheer imagination. My big mistake was not getting the body properly identified. Still, we must go to the husband, being the next of kin, mustn't you?
Mm. What was the motive? Love or greed?
Bit of both, I should think. I suppose they could have got control of that 280,000 quid that Anne Rogers' stepfather left her, could they?
Yes, I think they could have done. Because as long as I thought I was dealing with the real Mrs. Rogers, I could have completed the formalities without having to see her again.
And that's what they were counting on.
What put you onto them?
I'd had my suspicions for some time, but the final clincher, well, it was just a piece of sheer luck. You see, our lady detective happens to be a Roman Catholic.
Well,
I don't quite understand.
Well, she saw this supposedly devout lady, who'd been educated in a convent, mark you, come out of church and make the sign of the cross with her left hand. Oh, well, see you at the Old Bailey.
Oh, yes, I suppose I shall have to be there.
I'll bring you home.
Oh, that's very kind of you.